Should I go ahead and get on and...
Yeah, I think so. We'll frame it up and make sure we don't need to do anything else.
Copy. A little late, huh?
Yeah.
They're gonna be...
That's too high, obviously.
Yeah.
If you're down,
I'm gonna be down here.
Yeah, you should be good.
I just don't have to pretend like I'm looking at that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go ahead and get this started because I'm running late and I've got to get an hour and 15 minutes in.
No, that's good. Okay, I think you're good here. I can keep messing with it
Yeah.
on my computer.
Okay.
Okay.
You can flip that over. Make sure that stays there because that's...
Yeah. You have 2 people watching.
What's that?
So you have 2 people watching.
Okay. I think Mom, did you tell Mom or did she get an alert?
She probably got away.
Yeah.
You tell people too, periodically, if you think someone is watching, you can say, say something in the chat so let me know and I'll give you a little more information while we're doing something.
Where does it show?
Here's the
Okay, yeah. Okay, guys. Hopefully my bride is watching. And hopefully this trainer's not too loud. But if you want to ask a question about what in the world we're doing, be sure and send a comment or a chat and it'll pop up on the screen, or it should, and I'll be able to answer it. So I'm just going to ramble a little bit. If you don't know anything about cycling or triathlon, I'm on a trainer. I put my bike up to it, and it's a simulation of a ride, so I can get my training in, and from the comfort of my home. So also, and hey, Co, let me know if it's if you can hear it. There's some ears right there. Okay, so we're still trying to work out the audio video bugs here. This is our first live stream, so not really sure what we're doing. But what we're doing is a fundraiser. So my name is Scott Stevens, and my family and I are raising funds for a nonprofit named Tying Vines, and they do humanitarian work for Syrian refugees, primarily in Lebanon, but in other countries as well. And so we signed up through Ironman Foundation, the Your Journey, Your Cause program, to bring awareness and to raise funds for Tying Vines, because the Syrian refugee mess is monstrous. It is talking about millions and millions of displaced people, over 13 million displaced folks from Syria because of the Syrian war, the civil war due to the Arab Spring back in 2011. And so about half those 13 million fled the country. And okay, thanks, Co. I got your message. And so when you're talking about 13 million people, you're talking about roughly the population of the state of Illinois. Man, that's a bunch of people. Because of ISIS and other groups that really just totally ravage that country. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but about half the 13 million of the population are children under the age of 18. So let that sink in a minute. It is an absolute tragedy what has happened over there. And so Tying Vines was really started by a lady by the name of Melissa Mitchell, and her humanitarian initiative she named Walk With Me. She later teamed with Tying Vines for support, and they just do tremendous work. These families who, when they fled the country, many of them went over the Syrian-Lebanon border and settled in the valley, the Bekaa Valley, across the mountains, and they literally have nothing. I mean, if they got out of the country, they got out with the clothes on their back. And so, their property houses have likely been destroyed. family members lost, killed, whatever. And so they're living in these makeshift tents. It is not a uniform or UN type of camp. This is just, you grab some material and cover your head is essentially what they've done. But understand, they've been doing this for years. They've been in these tents literally since 2011. Many have. And so, as you can imagine, these kids who have been in that situation have had no schooling, have no way to support their family. The parents have no work. They're in a foreign country with no papers. And so their situation is truly dire. And so we through some friends of ours, got to know Melissa and what she's doing for these refugees. And, we read the stories on Melissa's blog, and really just broke our hearts. And so we wanted to figure out a way to help. We can write checks, but it's a bottomless pit. I'll go broke. So we tried to come up with ways we could help raise funds and awareness. And I had done Ironman before, back in 2014, and so it came to my mind that Ironman has an Ironman Foundation program, and I looked into it, and so that's what we decided to do. Use Ironman Foundation as a platform to get the word out. And so, like in June or July last year, we kicked this fundraiser off, and we set our goal at $25,000. And as you can see, we're a little over $15,000 raised, which is great. We started this training program at that same time, and it's a 40-week training program. We are on week 36. So we've been doing this a while, and we are in the final weeks of training and fundraising. So we decided to do this live stream to try to reach as many people as we could these last few weeks to get that to that $25,000 goal. So if you're tuning in and you have some friends, be sure and share or invite. Let them know what we're doing. I'm going to be on here for the next hour. About the next hour, I'm doing a hour and 15-minute train ride today. I'm going to grind away on this and answer any questions you might have. If you have any questions, be sure and chat, give me a comment, whatever. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about what it is we're doing. In the meantime, I'll just keep talking. Hey Luke, I see you chimed in. So I did a little math before I got on here. Like I mentioned, we started this back in June or July 2018. It's a 6-day-a-week training program, and we're at week 36, and so my cumulative miles to date in this swim, so triathlon, Ironman. You do a swim, a bike, and a run. The swim, the race day swim, is 2.4 miles long. The bike is 112 miles, and the run is a marathon, 26.2 miles. And so, it's a long day. Consequently, you have to train like crazy to get your body in shape and your mind in shape to make that long day. So at week 36, or really week 35, I have put in 176,300 yards in the pool. On the bike, I have 2,956.8 miles. Now that includes these trainer rides. A lot of cyclists who ride don't count their trainer rides, but triathlon a little bit different. If you don't count your trainer miles, it really is just it really skews your workouts, your training. A lot of pros, that's all they do. They train for thousands of miles on the trainer, never even get out on the road until race day or close to it. So I count the trainer miles as well. So 2956.8 miles on the bike, and on the run, 592 miles so far. So a lot of miles. The actual active work time totals 310 hours and 34 minutes since we started. Now that's active work time. That's the time I hit the go button on my watch until I hit the stop button on my watch. The time commitment for this, pretty significant. It's about half again as much as that when you consider prep time, cleanup time. As you can tell, I'm sweating a little bit. So I have to go take a shower and all that, but I also have to clean up the bike. It's a commitment. That's averages about, right now we're putting about 12 or 13 hours of active work time in a week. And so, if you add another half again as much, you're talking about close to 17, 18 hours a week. Kind of a part-time job. Let's see. Ironman. So I did Ironman back in 2014. And it's really, I blame my middle son, Evan, for getting me into this mess, because back in 2012, actually before that, he, working at a bike shop, we have the luxury actually of living on the Ironman course, or at that time on the Ironman course. And so one year, he didn't know anything about it. He was 17 at the time, and saw a bunch of bikes going by, and he asked his boss what it was about. He said, well, that's Ironman. Well, it's all downhill from there. He said, well, I'm going to do that. How old do you have to be? And the guy said, you have to be 18. And so, long story short, he realized that next year's Ironman race was on his birthday. So that sealed the deal. He figured it out. He started doing his own research. Ended up buying his own bike. He and his friends started training, running. He didn't know what he was doing, and we certainly didn't know what he was doing. But turned out really successful in 2012. I think that's right. Was his first race. Since that time, he's done 4 races. This will be his 5th full distance race. Evan and his wife Lauren signed up with me to do this race as a challenge for themselves, but also to kind of raise the bar on this fundraiser, to let everybody know that what we're doing is important. It's a commitment, and so we figured it would. It's some shadow of a reflection of what these people go through every day, because what they do every day is survival, and so we're just trying to do something that would, in some way, in some very small way, reflect the kind of the grueling life these people live. And so, anyways, Evan and Lauren and I are doing this race, and their training is going well. This is Lauren's first Ironman. Let me restate. This is Lauren's first triathlon. Pretty daunting if you've never done triathlon. Now, she's no stranger to endurance. She actually, I think she's done a half, but she's done a full marathon. She and I did that race in the Woodlands a couple years ago. So she knows what it is to commit to training. She's had a few hip issues that she's had to work through. So let me tell you, anybody who's done Ironman training has had to work through injury. Excuse me. Hey there, Miss Ashley. I see you chimed in. You're doing good. 20 minutes, 21 minutes in. So let's see. So I started training back after Evan got his race done in 2012. He kind of shamed me into getting off the couch. At that time I was 46 or so, 47. And I can still remember sitting on the back porch with my wife, Laurie, saying, you know, I got to get off the couch because I do not want to be the guy whose doctor says you got to walk around your block so that you don't have another heart attack, right? So I decided, you know, I got to do something. So I signed up for my first 5K run. Fun run, and started training. Had to walk run at first because I could not run for 30 seconds before I was just gassed. And since that time, I've done all the run distances. I've done a couple of half marathons, did a marathon, and then kind of transitioned into triathlon, did a sprint distance, which is much shorter, like 400 or 500 yard swim, 15-mile bike, and a 5K run, something like that. And hey there, who's that? It's under Michael. Oh no, Michael, is that Jared? Be sure and let me know so I'm not calling her out the wrong. That's Jared. That's what I thought. Okay, so I have to learn your what your mother calls you when she's mad at you. So Jared, thanks for tuning in. So done a sprint, did an Olympic distance. This is like twice the sprint distance, and I've done 3 half Ironman distance, which is a mile on the swim or so, 56 miles on the bike, and a 13.1 or half marathon distance run. And just kept working my way up. Did my full distance Ironman back in 2014 here in Texas, same race. And finished in 14 hours and 4 minutes and some change. My bike didn't go quite like I wanted it to, and I wanted to finish. My target time was 13 hours and 48 minutes, and so clearly I want a PR on this race, or get a personal record, sub 14, and if everything goes right, it should happen at about 13:40 or so. That's what I'd really like to hit. We'll see. You know, that's a really long day, and you have a flat on the bike or some other mechanical issue, just ruin your day. I have had a few injuries throughout the years I've had to deal with, primarily my feet. So I have had some plantar fasciitis issues, and even laid off after my last half Ironman. Laid off about 6 months to try to heal up, and as soon as I started running again, flared back up, and so I ended up going into a massage therapist or a chiropractor, who actually is a sponsor of ours, F3 in Shenandoah here near the Woodlands. And Dr. Dennis Evans worked my feet, and let me tell you, he is a miracle worker, because he fixed my problem in one 45-minute session, and it was extremely painful, but very effective. And so he is my go-to guy when I have issues. Since that time, though, I've been able to manage that foot, that plantar issue. I roll out with a golf ball and kind of do some trigger work on those parts that really are painful, and seems to have done really well. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, Evan, I see you. And that was Lauren, I see. I'm glad you guys are tuned in. And that's what you're going to look like when you're my age, just so you know. But I hear that bald is beautiful, so I'm going with that. And by the way, that's called sweat. Hopefully you do that. You break one when you train. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about Tyne Vines. Tyne Vines, Melissa, and the folks she works with in these camps, they kind of focus on 4 main humanitarian efforts. One is a catch-up program or educational program for these kids. Remember, some of these kids have been in these camps for years, 5, 6, 7 years, have had no formal education during that time, and so they do some catch-up programs to help these kids bridge a gap until prayerfully one day they get back into a more formal education situation where they can catch up and are able to potentially able to their job, help support their family, have some sort of normalcy in their lives when they become adults. And so education, vocational training, hand in hand with education. One of the programs that I know they do with these young girls, or older girls, but young adult girls, is a sewing program. They teach these girls how to sew so they have a trade that they can use to help support themselves and their families. And I know they're doing some other vocational training as well. And then medical support. You think about, you live in a tent, dirt floor. This last winter, these winter months just recently, it gets bitter cold in that valley. People get sick, have no way. It's not like there's a clinic down the street. And so Melissa has doctors come in to these camps and treat these families, these kids, just basic treatment. What you and I would just go to our cupboard and take a pill. They don't have that. So and then they do trauma counseling. Arguably the most important component of what Melissa does, because remember, all of these families have been displaced in violent ways. These young girls and women have either been abused sexually in every other way, or have viewed it, experienced it in some way. And so this vital trauma counseling for these girls is helping in ways that, on an emotional level, that most of us will never have to experience or deal with. So Tiny Vines is doing fantastic work over there. They partnered with Texas A&M University, just right up the road from here in College Station, with the construction college, or my son graduated from that college, construction science, and so they have built out these big storage containers that you've seen, 40-foot containers that companies use to ship things overseas. They build them out into classrooms, medical facilities, and then they ship them over there full of supplies, so they get the benefit of the supplies. And then they set these containers up as classrooms and clinics. Just a great work. And so these dollars that we're raising are going to go to help support all of these efforts that Melissa's currently doing and continuing to do. So it's fantastic work, great cause, dollars well spent. So any money you can send our way, much appreciated. Okay, a little nutrition. It's been 34 minutes. So, nutrition. This training burns a lot of calories. This bike ride, hour and 15 minutes. For me, my age, I'm going to burn about 500 or 600 calories. These younger guys, Evan and Lauren, they'll burn half again as much. Because their metabolism is higher. But race day, 14-hour day, I'll burn probably 6,000 calories or so. Evan and Lauren, they'll probably burn 8 or 9, I don't know. Crazy calorie burn. So nutrition, really key. And to be honest with you, it's probably as important or more important as the rest of these miles that we put in, because without the proper nutrition, you will bonk. In other words, your body will shut down somewhere along that course, and it will say, I'm done. And you'll DNF. So getting proper nutrition on the bike and on the run is really key. Hey there, Miss Lauren. Yeah, hopefully you are chatting from your trainer, or maybe you just got finished with your run. But let's see, what can we talk about? If anyone has any questions on tying vines or Ironman training, be sure and let me know. Be happy to answer them. So one of the things that most endurance athletes do when they train is they base their effort on their heart rate, because their heart rate is an indicator of their effort. And in endurance training, you have to really control your effort, or once again you'll run out of steam. It's kind of like your car. You go 55, you go a long ways. But if you're driving 100, you'll burn that gas, go through that gas tank in a hurry. Same thing with endurance training. So we have these fancy watches. I don't know if you can see that watch. It's a Garmin, and it's got this matrix of data, one of which is my heart rate, and it's reading my heart rate from my wrist. Not perfectly accurate, but close enough. And so I'm really conscious of that heart rate. Don't want to go over. There are times when doing some interval work where you bump that heart rate up for 30 seconds, a minute, come back down to kind of activate your fast twitch muscles and help your overall pace. You do that early in your training, but as close as we are to the race, you don't test your legs, you don't test your muscles. You just grind away at your heart rate in my ceiling. So it's, I had a lactate threshold test done it twice to determine kind of where my body goes from an aerobic state or burn to an anaerobic burn, and want to stay under that threshold. Well, mine is about 3 years ago was about 171 beats a minute, and so my ceiling in the bike is actually 20 beats below that, and my run ceiling is 10 beats below. So those are my gauges, and I'm really strict on staying in that, under that ceiling, if that's the instruction from my coach. So let's say I just saw Olivia Garmo pop up. Olivia, are you there? Give me a chat so I know. I've never done this before, so I'm kind of learning as I go along. So heart rate. Some endurance cyclists and triathletes will use a power meter on their bike to also help gauge their effort. It's a very good indicator of your effort on a bike because it's gauging watts of power, and it's very expensive though. So I want to do well and I want to PR, but you got to draw the line. This bike was not cheap. I don't even want to look at my nutrition bill every month. So, you just have to kind of do what you can. And I like my heart rate. It's treated me well over the years, so I'm going to stick to that. So as you can tell, I'm at 130 beats a minute. On this trainer, it's always low by about 20 beats. So I am roughly at ceiling now. Running about 95 RPM on the bike is my cadence, or my pedaling, which is about my run cadence, which is important. You want to try to keep that muscle memory about the same, or that cadence about the same for muscle memory, so that on the run you keep your cadence high. So I'm sweating. Over a period of an hour on a bike, I may go through half a gallon of fluids because I'm sweating out that much. Over the course of a race, you cannot catch up. You're at a deficit. And so it's really important that you keep sodium going in, because sodium is crucial, especially here in Texas where it gets pretty hot. Without sodium, your brain can't send the information to your muscles to work, and some people have had pretty tough race situations when they become pretty despondent and their body starts to shut down. It's not because they're fatigued beyond reason. It's because their brain can't function, can't tell their body what to do, and they just shut down. And so somebody at medical will get them some fluids, get them some electrolytes, and all of a sudden 10 minutes later they're perked back up and ready to go again. So this sweat is going to happen. That's why I take these This is Gatorade Endurance, which is what they use on the course. And so I'm real strict on when I take all that, so that I don't have too much in my stomach at one time, just able to process, but that I continue to get it so that I don't run too big a deficit. So we're at about 45 minutes. Just flying by. Let's see. Ironman. So the race this year is April 27th. It is March 27th, so we're exactly 30 days out. We have, this is a big week, big build mileage week. So for example, tomorrow my long run is a 17-mile run, and then I have a swim, 3,500 yards, something like that, on Friday. And then Saturday, we have a big ride, 112-mile full race distance bike ride, which is going to be a 6 and a 6.5 hour ride. And then Sunday, have a recovery run, probably 10-mile run, a little bit lower effort. And then next week, the big run is on Thursday, is a 20-mile run with a 120-mile bike on Saturday. So these next 2 weeks are, and then I've got workouts every day, but those are the big ones. So these next 2 weeks, are this week and next week, are really, really critical weeks, workout weeks, both physically but mentally. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, several years. I know how to train, but there's this little nagging something. I don't like to admit it, but I think it's called fear. It's always with you. Fear of pain, fear of injury, fear of the unknown, fear of forgetting something, not having your nutrition, or, just fear of failure. It's not acute, but it's just there. And I'm sure for, Lauren, it's her first time. I remember those feelings, and, that emotional challenge, I call it, the daily battle. Every day I have a workout, and every day I don't want to do it. And I just go do it. I don't let myself even consider that there's a possibility that it wouldn't happen. And I've learned to manage that. But man, I remember that first race, it was a 24/7 weight over my head, just constantly there. And it's really the same this time, but I know what to expect, and so it does make it a little easier. But that race, those miles don't get any shorter. I don't care how many times you've done this race. There's never an easy Ironman race. So, a month out, we get to taper a little bit. That last week and a half, let your body your fitness come back. You recover a little bit, work out any kinks, any injuries or whatever. The race day starts really early. About 4 o'clock we get up and start the process of breakfast and getting your stuff together and get down there to transition to do your last minute things to your bike, and then you walk over to about a half mile or so to the swim start. And it's a little different this time. We had a mass start when I did it back in 14. Everybody's in the water, 2,300 or so, 2,500 people. Cannon goes off, and it's a mad dash. And you're bumping, and people are climbing over you and kicking you in the head. And I actually had a pretty good swim. It really wasn't too bad, but due to safety and some other things, this year, in the last couple of years, they've done a rolling start, and I think you self-seed based on your swim times. And your time starts when you hit the water, and so it's a little less crowded. But that's a 7 o'clock start, and I'll be in the water about an hour and 25 minutes or so, if everything goes right. And then I have transition from the water. You get out of the water, you get to the tent, get prepped for your bike. You got to walk out with your helmet on and your bike shoes on, and your nutrition, and a little bit dicey because you want to make sure you don't forget anything. That's 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, whatever. Get on your bike, and then it's for me, a 6.5+ hour ride. It's a closed course this year, so we're actually on the Hardy Toll Road, I think. You get through the woodlands, go south, get on the Hardy, and go all the way into Houston, turn around, come back out, back up to Spring, you turn around, go back down, and turn around, come back up, and get back. So that's a 112-mile bike. And back to the tent, get your running shoes on, and take your gloves off. It's very important. You look like a goon if you don't, and I'm a testament to that. I ran about a half mile before I realized I still had my bike gloves on. So, and then it's a marathon run. For me, it'll be over 5 hours, and long day. I hope to cross that finish line about 8:40 in the evening or so, something like that, between 8:30 and 9. Now Evan, if he does what he wants, he'll be in, I don't know, hour plus, hour and a half before me, I don't know, whatever. And Lauren, I haven't actually talked to her about what she wants her time to be. I mean, let me tell you, your first Ironman, your first goal is to finish. That's everybody's first goal. Your second goal is to hit a time. I don't know what that is, but the goal number one is key. So, and then do one more left or right. $53, 54 minutes. You can tell I'm in what's called aero. Unfortunately, you can't see my bike, but I have bars that are flat, and then I have some aero bars that stick out that allow me to get down, and it is I'll have a helmet on. It's an aero helmet. And, the goal is to cut through that wind and be as aerodynamic as possible. Of course, it really helps if you go fast. I don't go very fast, so I do get some help, so 6.5 hours like this, my neck will feel it the next day. But that's why you train. That's why you do what you do day in and day out, so that come race day, you can manage it. My poor wife has to clean up my mess. I sweat like a bucket. Hey, and my support crew. My sweet daughter Claire works at a cupcake shop, and she's a barista. And I think she brought home a cupcake for me, and I think my bride has, I don't know, helped herself. Hopefully I'll get a bite before it's gone. Yeah, so that's when we talk about diet. So, there's a little bit of a misconception about Ironman training, endurance training, doing all these big miles. And so you sign up and realize, man, I can eat whatever I want because I'm going to be working out so much. And I think half the people who train for triathlon or Ironman weigh more on race day than when they started training, because they're starving all the time, because their metabolism is increased, and more than likely they're eating foods that are really, not so good, a lot of sugar, and then more of it. So I have learned the hard way that you really have to watch your calorie intake and know your calorie burn and your base metabolic rate, or your resting calorie burn, because if not, you will, you don't want to be carrying another 5 pounds or 10 pounds of weight around when you're trying to run a marathon. Trust me, at mile 13 or so, you'll feel it. So my son, Cody, introduced us to intermittent fasting, and I wanted to lose a few pounds and be about 3 or 4 pounds under my race weight. So that the last week or so I could load up, kind of increase my glycemic intake, get my muscles loaded a little bit, carbs, so that race day I'm at my race weight and I'm in good shape nutritionally. So I started this intermittent fasting. Laura and I both did, and we did a 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window, which essentially for me is I stop eating at 8 o'clock in the evening, and I don't eat until about 12:30. So I only really miss breakfast. But you eat anything, even think about eating anything, and during that fast time, you break your fast, and whatever benefits you were getting from that fast, you've just blown. So you have to be really rock solid, disciplined to get the benefits. But it's not just that you're potentially eating less calories, but a lot of good things happen. Your body functions so much better. So I'm not a scientist, don't know all the facts. I've read, listened to a bunch. What I do know is that I see your comment, Evan. I did take my helmet off when I transitioned. I suspect you might have missed it once or twice. So intermittent fasting. I started, my race weight, target race weight is 155. And I was like right at 160 when I started this fast, and worked like a charm, man. I am down, we've done this for about 45 days. I'm down to like, depends, but as low as like 149 something. I didn't want to get that low, but because I don't want to lose any power. I'm around 152 or so, which is just about where I wanted to be, and maintaining that really with ease really. But that intermittent fasting has just been really helpful. So the last couple of weeks I'll start probably eating regular, 3 meals plus a day, and watching my caloric intake, but loading up on the sugar, a little bit on the carbs, and that ought to help get me to my race weight. We'll see how it goes. Let's see, is that the Lackney bunch there chiming in? How are you doing? You're catching us an hour into this ride, so got about 12, 13 more minutes. So this is my little gel flask. It's got, when it's full, about 6 or 7 gels in it. One gel is about 100 calories. Get this twice an hour. Well, trust me, I'm tired too. So it's funny, every time I take some gel or nutrition, water, heart rate will drop 5 beats a minute. Yeah, no kidding. Whereas it feels like it's like a sauna in here. It's probably 70. Anyway. Yeah, so heart rate strongly tied to core body temperature. And so when you get some nutrition down, you wash it down with some water, tends to kind of have an immediate effect on that heart rate. But I'm right where I need to be, and I'm going to stick to that effort. Let's see, anybody have any questions these last few minutes? Any Tiny Vines questions, fundraising questions? So I'll tell you, for all of our friends who are in the area who plan to go to the race, just remember, you get in, kind of like Hotel California. It is a nightmare to get in and get out, so I would suggest parking in the mall parking lot, and then you can get out by going north around the mall and out to the freeway. But so like I said, I'm going to come in, if everything goes right, between 8:30 and 9. Evan will be at least an hour before me, if not an hour and a half. I don't know what exactly his time is. If you haven't been to an Ironman, really encourage you to try, or to go if you can. You know, make an evening of it. Let's see. Oh, hey, Kim, how are you? Oh, everybody, the whole family, cool. And Kim, you've been doing some fasting. That's great. Like you needed it. Actually, oh, cool. That's great. Yeah, so intermittent fasting doesn't mean you have to lose weight. It's really, really good for your system. But you got to eat when in that 8-hour time, whatever you're doing during that eating period. I mean, you gotta get the calories in. So whatever it takes. I mean, I'm a big fan of Ensure. It's the perfect 4-to-1 sugar to protein ratio for a post-workout recovery. But it's also just a good calorie intake if you need some extra. So who asked me, Ms. Lackney, the date? April 27th is race day. So yeah, as I was saying, you know, make an evening of it. If you haven't been to a race, it is totally worth going to. It is really inspiring to watch these people come across that that finish line. You know, everybody has a story. We're doing a fundraiser. Some people, cancer survivors. Some people lost 150 pounds, and they're still 250 pounds crossing that finish line. It is just incredible. Some of the stories these people have and the reasons they're doing that race. Truly inspiring. So yeah, the finish line is at the yeah, you can watch it online. It is better live, trust me. The finish line is at Market Street, or actually don't know the name of that street, but right there at the theaters. So I suggest you go in early, get there about 7, grab something to eat there in the waterway area, and find your way to the finish line for at least an hour or so and get the feel. It's really, really cool. Wow, 5 more minutes. So we've been doing this for an hour and 10 minutes. If you think about race day, another 5 or 6 of these or more. Of course, then you got to get off and run. It's times like this when I ask myself why we didn't just sign up for a 5K fun run and call it good. I am an Aggie. Okay, what's the hardest for me? What the hardest part of the race, I'd say? I think for most people it's the run, just because your body's pretty spent when you come off the bike, and then it's just sheer willpower that gets you that 26 miles. For a lot of people who haven't done Ironman, for a lot of people who getting into triathlon, they would say the swim is going to be the hardest thing. They just are scared to death of the swim. But and for shorter triathlons, I would say, I'm sorry, I'm looking down here and not at the camera. For shorter triathlons, sprints, and Olympics, the swim plays a bigger role. It's a longer part, it's a larger component of the race relative to the overall race time. But in Ironman, I've said this 100 times to people, it is true. 2 hours, 3 hours into the bike, I will have forgotten I was in the water. It is just such a small part of the race, hour and 25 minutes in the water. It's just almost forgettable. I think what often people fear about the water is that claustrophobia. You're surrounded by people, they're kicking you, they're swimming over you, you're in open water, you can't see the bottom, it can be frightening. A lot of people do panic in the water, and I'm sad to say that there's at least a handful of deaths. There's a bunch of Ironman races throughout the year, all over the world, and there are people who have had heart attacks or whatever in the water. I don't know if it's a panic attack, if it's, I don't know, but so I guess for some people the swim is daunting, but never been a problem for me at all. It's mile 18. That's the hardest part. Get past mile 18, you can see the barn, and that last little bit is just glory, So, Chris Garmo, if you're still watching, if you hadn't nodded off, you might consider signing up for something, I'll pay the entry fee if you'll do a 10K. Kim, you heard that, so now it's in your court. Make him do it. Okay, so we have 1 minute left. Guys, be sure, I know most of you are friends of ours. If you have friends who you've told about this or think might have some interest in it, be sure and share these videos and let them know about the fundraiser, because we are at 15, a little over 15,000, 10,000 to go. We got about 5 weeks to get there, so we need all the help we can get the word out. Any last questions before we sign off? So Chris wants to know how far 10K is. Let's see. For you, that would be about 212 trips to the kitchen. How about that? That's something you can relate to. They don't have tacos on the run though. Okay guys, thanks for coming in and sharing this with us. Got my bike in. I'm shutting her down. And we may do this again. I have my tech assistant, Cody, here. It'll be up to him. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.